called Asleep. And interestingly, I wrote this after I moved from the Maritimes to Toronto, so maybe I felt that extra at that point. Asleep. A wasp-like hum in the room. There's something going on that passes for silence in these quarters. For we want to believe in silence, that our repose leaves nothing behind, empties all the chambers, takes the present into our dreams with us, and leaves a void that works like acid on all that was. Car headlights on the wall mean nothing. The cramped, ungrowing furniture, nothing. The church spires, tired bells, nothing. They are but the residue of day, less than echoes. The last creaking stare on the way out of perception. We've come to an agreement. Tired of the world and its inalienable unlikeness, we will give up coaxing it out. So the night darkens. The curtain drifts out the window. The very lateness of the hour ceases. We sleep side by side with eternity and never touch. So thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being
We have some questions, I'm sure, because students are taking a few notes, and I think they want to ask you some things about your writing process. So let's go.
Hi, blue shirt.
Why did you get started on writing poetry?
Yeah, I was sort of saying this at lunchtime. I was one of those people that, like, when I was yay high, I wanted to be a writer, and I started writing poetry. And I don't like saying that because if people want to write poetry, they haven't felt that way. I think sometimes it can seem like it has to be a calling and it has to be a destiny. I don't think that's true. I think I could have come across it later in life. But my parents read me poetry when I was a kid. Like I had like the kids' anthologies of poems and whatever. And my parents were readers, and that, you know, I just sort of grew up with it a bit. And also being a pretty solitary child, I think, led me into that kind of, you know, that way of doing the reflective, meditative stuff that the poetry, at least my poetry, is built of. So I suppose that's another part of how I got into it. I eventually went to school and studied with a couple of poets. I did a master's program at UNB, and that was big, because that was the first time I'd met actual poets who were doing this with their lives. And that helped me as well to sort of see that, oh yeah, real people can do this. Yeah.
When do you find yourself writing the most?
Most? Oh, that's a good question. I'm pretty steady, really.
Yeah.
I don't write every single day, but I write pretty steadily. Like there's a regularity to it.
Which emotion do you feel is most powerful?
Which what?
Which emotion do you feel is most powerful?
Which motion?
Yeah.
What do you mean by motion?
Like, I write a lot too.
Yeah.
I find that when I'm just like confused or something.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, emotion.
Yeah.
I heard motion. Sliding, I find, is very good poetry.
Yeah.
Oh,
It feels really
I see what you're saying. Hmm. I think I would have to say, like, one of those times where it's sort of a sadness, but it's not like a really all-encompassing, it's not depression. Those moments of, like, melancholy. I was going to say bittersweetness. Yeah, something like that. Something that's not decimating, but that maybe takes you a little bit out of things enough. Again, to sort of have that reflective time.
For sure.
I would like to write more about happiness. I'm actually trying to. It's surprisingly difficult.
It's hard.
It is. And I don't know why. I think maybe it comes across as seeming like, I don't know, naive, not understanding how terrible the world really is, or I don't know why it's so hard. Or maybe it's what I was saying and what we were saying earlier about, you know, when you are a little sadder, you withdraw a little bit, and so you get time to sort of mull things over and look at things. Yeah.
How did you get inspired to write when you just don't feel like writing?
Mostly, I read other people's writing. I find that very inspiring. And I think it's partly the poetry, again, I should say the poetry that I like to do and that I like to read, tends to get us thinking in a different way than we normally do. It's less linear, it's less logical, it's less cause and effect. And those are all important, useful things for getting around in the world. But I feel like poetry asks you to make more leaps, kind of more associations. And I always think of it as the kind of thinking that you do in dreams. And so I feel like if I'm stuck, going to somebody else who is thinking in those ways helps me to switch gears and start thinking in those ways as well. I'm going to...
You ever read Walden?
Sorry?
Do you read Thoreau? Have you read Walden?
Have I read Walden? Yes.
I just like make a connection with the kind of like apathy for society and stuff with you.
The what for society, sorry?
Like apathy in society, you just kind of connect. It's nice. I like it.
I wasn't so sure.
No.
Yeah, it's not all apathy, right? What can I say about this? Like the withdrawing is important. I also think the being in it is important. And if you're not in it, you're never going to have anything to write about. But yeah, a sort of a withdrawing for sure. I guess I've been emphasizing. And yeah, he withdrew and spent lots of time just thinking things over, which I was saying earlier again. I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself, Michelle. But I think of that as actually being a kind of a political act. And I'm not always convinced that writing poetry is doing enough in the world. So with that reservation, I do think that one of the things it does do is if you read or write poetry, it's taking time, as Michelle was saying, to slow things down. It's taking time to reflect on things. And we're not really encouraged to do that a whole lot. The pace of our world is quick, 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 and getting quicker all the time. So it feels like anything that resists that a little bit, it's actually got a bit of a political edge to it. How do I get to that? Yeah, right, so meditation as politics. Yeah, and there was a woman in a blue shirt behind you.
I was going to ask if you have a favorite author.
Oh, I have lots of favorite authors. I don't know how many of them you would know. There's a Swedish poet called Thomas Tranströmer. Yeah, you wouldn't, if you're not into poetry in a big way, you wouldn't come across him. But if you ever are interested in picking up some poetry, he's very good. He's one of these guys that works with deep imagery. So when I was talking about a dream logic, he is all over that. And a lot of metaphor, so comparing this thing to that thing, where you suddenly think, oh yeah, the ocean is kind of like a stray dog, and it's sort of orphaned and lonely, or, you know, he's good at giving you those little, the leaps that I was talking about, where you suddenly see things in a different way. So I like him a lot for that. There's also Rainer Maria Rilke, German poet. He's been really big for me. Also great with metaphor. Also writing out of a very sort of passionate place, but not... The refrigerator poem that I read, that's sort of a thing poem, and Rilke kind of invented these thing poems where, unlike the Romantics, who were writing poems and engaging with the natural world so that they could feel transported, this was really about kind of forgetting about the self and drawing back a little bit and looking out at other things, trying to really give your attention over to something. And so he'd write these poems like The Panther, where he sort of comes at the panther from a bunch of different angles. And so he was pushing against that romantic, I want to say self-involvement, but that sounds like I'm condemning it. I think there's something good about that too. But that romantic sort of emphasis on the uplift of yourself.